So Trump floated the idea of a 50-year mortgage, and the critics are blasting it. And you know what? I'm one of them. I think a 50-year mortgage is insane. I think it will trap people to the system I fight against every single day. But I'm also a man of math, and all I wanted to do is say, could there be a good side to a 50-year mortgage? So that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about the math behind a 30-year mortgage and a 50-year mortgage, and you can be the judge. So I'm sure you already know, housing is just unaffordable. It's unaffordable for the majority of the population in this country. And that's a problem because there's a lot of people that would love to own a house that they just can't. That's what's driven this whole affordable housing and affordable apartment boom, which they missed the mark on that too. So the whole idea, and the Trump administration is kind of leading this, the whole idea was to make a mortgage more affordable. Now, if they do that, it does indeed make the monthly payment less, about 10% less by the math, what I found. However, that opens up a massive amount of people to now be able to get a mortgage on a house at today's stupid pricing, because that's what it is. Housing is very expensive. Call it stupid, call it just what it is. It is what it is. Let it be, right? But now, once you push that amortization out 50 years, it does make it more affordable from a monthly payment standpoint. And that is where you really need to look at it. Are we literally going into this debt cycle, this debt spiral, which is what I'm calling it, and going deeper and deeper and deeper into debt and being more and more and more reliant onto the system, the banking system for that matter? And, well, depending on how you look at it, the 50-year mortgage certainly traps people. They get into a house and they're stuck for 50 years. Now I know some of you are like, but you could still sell it, you could still refinance it. Yeah, and every time you do that, it costs more and more and more money in fees. So that's what I want to talk about. If you look at what's happened to the cost of living and just the price of things, since COVID, all of them have gone up. The chart literally is almost a straight line up. So when you think about that, the average American, everything has become more expensive. Everything from the car they drive, the mortgage they pay, the rents they pay, the utilities they pay, food they buy, all of it is so expensive. And when you look at the average age of someone buying a house, it's 33 years old. Now, back when I bought my first house in 2004, I was 23. Literally, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but I guess it was. But you're talking 10 years. People are delaying home ownership for 10 years. The way I look at that is from 23 to 33. How many houses did I buy that I moved into? Well, it was about one every 5 to 7 years, right in line with the average. So I moved every 5 to 7 years and upgraded to a different house in a different area, sometimes bigger. Now, people aren't even starting till 33, and that's probably going to push further if something isn't done. And what that does is it delays asset building. Because all those houses that I bought from 23 to 33, guess what? All of them had equity. When I sold them, I made money on every single one. And most people do. But now if you're starting at 33, you don't even get that momentum, that flywheel started until that point. And that's a shame. So we've got to find a better way to buy a house at a younger age and build the equity. And maybe, just maybe, the math will show us that the 50-year mortgage allows a family to do this. This should wake you up. In 2015, the median home price was about $290,000. And I looked at that as being really expensive. But let's look at 2025. The median home price is $410,000 to $440,000. They can't even spot it. They can't even come up with the median. It's a range, $290,000 to $410,000. Wow. So let's just look at the math. Let's just see if this administration is onto something. The 50-year mortgage is not good and it's not bad. It's all about your discipline. Let's just break it down. The 30-year mortgage clearly allows you to build equity faster. That's how the amortization works. A 50-year mortgage allows you to free up cash flow. However, if you take the cash flow from the 50-year mortgage and you were to invest it, you can build wealth. And that all comes down to the discipline and the strategy. If you don't invest the difference, which most will not because they're not disciplined, then you're going to spend a lot more money in interest. The strategy matters more than the mortgage term. Let me repeat that. The strategy matters more than the term of your mortgage. That's because of the discipline of what you do with that difference, that spread between a 30 and a 50-year mortgage. Now, I know we're just chalking it up as we want housing to be more affordable, but there's more to the story, and the numbers showed that. And at the end of the day, you could always refinance, but just remember, a refinance costs you more money in fees. Now, I know we covered a lot of numbers, and some of you are like, I don't know how to do all those numbers. Great, I got a solution for you. If you go to BYOBvault.com, you will find a software that we created. In that vault, you could run all of these scenarios. You could run a 30-year, a 50-year. You could run it using your own private banking system, but it will also show you how to pay all of them off in a fraction of the time if you understand money and velocity. And that's what the software is designed to do. So if you want to learn how to do this, and you don't want to do the numbers, and you don't want to do the math like we just did, get the software, BYOBvault.com. The vault would let you run your own mortgage projections and investment projections. It would show you how to do that difference like we did in the math. And to make it easy, we put the link right up in the description, so check it out. Or better yet, just grab your phone and just point it at that little QR code, and then click the button. There you go. Hey, hold on a second. If you're liking what we're talking about, then I need you to click that little subscribe button. There's a little bell right up top. What I need you to do is smash that bell so you're notified every single time I put out new content. Let's keep going. I always like to let math do the proving. Now, this isn't going to work for every single person because, well, you have to be persistent in this, and you have to have the right mindset to do this and continue to do what I'm going to show you. But this is just an example. I'm trying to see, is a 50-year mortgage a good thing or a bad thing? And what I've come to the conclusion of, it's neither. It's all in the eye of the beholder. So let's run the math. If we look at a 50-year mortgage for $305,000, we just took general numbers, and we looked at a rate of 3.25%. I know. You can't get a 3.25% mortgage, but let's just say you were able to get one of these mortgages back during the good time. It doesn't matter what we run the rate at, the math is all going to play out about the same. If you did that, a 30-year mortgage versus a 50-year mortgage, your payments would differ by roughly $300. A 30-year mortgage at $305,000 at 3.25 is $1,327.38. If we look at a 50-year mortgage, the proposed 50-year mortgage, the payment would go down to $1,029.14. Now, I know some of you are thinking, that's not a big difference. And that's what I said. It's not a big difference at all. It's a difference of $298.16, hardly even worth discussing. Because when you were to look at the interest, the total interest paid on a 30 versus 50-year, it's a drastic difference. A 30-year mortgage would cost you $172,856 in interest. That's no small number by itself. But if we did a 50-year mortgage, assuming you actually paid mortgage payments of principal and interest for the full 50 years, highly unlikely, but you know what? It's not unlikely to think for the next 50 years, many of you watching this will have a mortgage and keep rolling it over and over as you buy new homes, refinance homes, and you kept doing it with a 50-year mortgage if that became the norm. 50-year mortgage, $312,481. Whoa, that's a difference of $139,625. No, thank you. No way. This is where I first saw my head going. When I looked at 50-year mortgages, I'm like, no way. This traps people. This is going to put people in a terrible position, which I still believe it will. It's going to screw the majority of the people because they will not be disciplined. So I'm talking to the 1%ers here. You all watching this, you're the 1%ers because what I'm going to show you next, the way we're going to spin this, that's you. That's not them. It's just for you. Let's look at that. If we were to take one from the Dave Ramsey books, now I don't agree with buy term invest the difference, but if we just looked at just the invest the difference in this mortgage scenario, well, $298 was the difference between a 30 and a 50 year. That's how much you would save. If we took that same $298, we set it and forget it. Now that's very important. That is the diligence you need to have. You need to set this difference up from day one. No more extra spending, no more extra Starbucks, extra dinners, extra movies, whatever you do. This $298 needs to be invested for the whole period of time. Now, again, like I said, the majority of the other folks out there, they're not going to do this, but let's just assume you did and you were diligent with it. If you invested $298 every single month and you reinvested the dividends that S&P 500 did. Now, we only looked at 1970 to 2020. Your results will differ. This is completely hypothetical. We are not making investment recommendations or giving investment advice. I'm just showing you an example, but your results will be different. We're just looking at this one scenario. We assume that you're at a 21% tax rate. We had to assume a tax rate because we're looking at a non-qualified investment into the S&P 500. And we looked at a management fee because you're probably going to have a financial advisor, much like PMC Wealth and the advisors over there helping you with this. So a 1% investment management fee. The ending value of this investment after 50 years is $587,418. Now I know that is unlikely that any of you are going to put money away for 50 years and just leave it sit. But that's what this is showing. And again, your results will differ. But now let's take that and make that practical in a sense where this actually would make a difference. And the difference I'm talking about is, could this side investment, this invest the difference, be used to pay off your house faster, to pay off that mortgage you have? The answer is absolutely. Think of this as a sinking fund. Now, what is a sinking fund? You take money, the difference, the $298. You put it away into a fund or an investment or a savings, whatever it is you choose to use. Could even be a specially designed whole life. You put it over there and you leave it alone for a long period of time. You reinvest the dividends, you pay the taxes when they're due, all those things. And you then look at this to sink the mortgage debt. That's called a sinking fund. I use this all the time in business. When we borrow money from investors, we create a sinking fund to pay those investors off. It's almost foolproof. Doesn't work 100% of the time because the investments can fluctuate in value. But again, we're not looking at everyone having the same results. Let's look at this. Your mortgage balance in year 25 would be $211,182. Right there, that should show you there's a problem with mortgages, right? You started with a mortgage that was a little over $300,000 at 3.25%, but you're now 25 years into this mortgage, 25 years from now, and your balance is still $211,000. Hey, do you know why that is? It's because the banks are screwing you. They put all the interest in the front part of your mortgage. So when you buy your house, for those first 10 years, maybe even longer, the majority of your payment, 60 to 85% of your payment is going to interest, helping the bank, helping them, screwing you. All right, back to reality. Let's come down here. 1 year after that, year 26, $205,614. So now your mortgage payments are actually paying down principal where they didn't for the majority of the time of that mortgage. Just remember, I told you first. But if we took that investment balance for that same period of time, that sinking fund, that side fund, whatever you want to call it, the invest the difference, and we use that to then sink the mortgage balance. In the 25th year, we have $185,579. We could use that to pay this down. And then you would have barely any mortgage left. But if we waited one more year, just one more year, this shows you the power of compounding interest. Now, whether it's compounding interest in your private banking system that we teach, or here, compounding interest of the S&P 500 being invested for a long period of time, reinvesting dividends, rolling and compounding every year, you got $251,187. 1 year later, you went from 185 to 251. Your results will differ. These results are based on 1970 to 2020 S&P 500 returns. I'm just giving you an example. But 251,000 is more than enough to pay off $205,614. So you see, when we spin it like this, for those of you that are diligent enough to create that sinking fund, that side fund, and invest that money and not touch it. Just close your eyes, forget it's there. It's there for one purpose, and that is to pay off those nasty, greedy, blood-sucking, interest-sucking banks. This is why you should be your own bank. But anyway, if you're not, let's pay them off faster. The whole consensus I'm trying to get to you is when we go back to the original numbers, let me show them to you one more time, and then we're going to bring this thing to a conclusion. The 30-year mortgage versus the 50-year mortgage. You paid less money for the 50-year mortgage per month, but you ended up paying a lot more in interest over 50 years. But remember, if you took the difference and you invested it, you'd pay off your mortgage faster than 30 years. And you'd have some money left over because that monthly payment that you would have paid was less. The cool thing here is all the while you were building that side fund. I know you're building it to pay off this mortgage, but the entire time you're doing that, is that not an asset on your personal financial statement? Is that not an asset on your balance sheet? It is. So it made your life easier because you had an asset that was yours alone, not the bank's. You weren't paying the bank more, you were earning money. And when you pay that mortgage off, it was $205, but you had $251. Well, you got some extra money, and not just a little, a good chunk. Now you can go enjoy yourself. Now you can put that new kitchen on. Now you can put that new bathroom on. And you don't have to borrow the money from the bank because it's your money. You are starting to become the bank. Now, I know it only took you 26 years, but here's the other thing. Why don't you just start being the bank right now? Well, we'll get to that. And I know I'm gonna have people asking, Chris, what would you do? Well, it depends. What I do and what you do are gonna be two different things because everybody's at a different place in their life. What I will tell you is the most important thing is make sure you control your money and you own your house. That's it. So if you do use a 30-year or a 50-year or an all-in-one, make sure your goal is to pay that mortgage off as fast as possible, and that is exactly how I would handle it. And it's exactly what I'm doing right now. So if you liked all of this, folks, check this video out right here, Secrets of the Wealthy.